Hi, I'm Lena, and welcome to Super Data JP, the channel where we turn Japan's real estate and cost of living numbers into answers you can actually use. Every video here is built on verified government data, not opinions and not guesses. Whether you're planning to invest, relocate, or just curious what life in Japan really costs, you're in the right place. Let's get into today's numbers.
Niseko's foreign-driven boom is about 20 years old. Karuizawa's is 140 years old, founded not by a corporation or a ski company, but by a Canadian missionary who built the first summer home here in 1888. Last stop in our new city's set. Hiroshima, Sendai, and Niseko all showed the same pattern of concentrated growth. Karuizawa is where that pattern started, over a century before any of them. This is for anyone considering a Karuizawa vacation home, and anyone curious how Japan's original foreign resort town is handling a very modern property boom. The story starts in 1886, when Alexander Crofts Shaw, a Canadian-born Anglican missionary, visited the area and was taken with its cool climate and scenery. By 1888 he'd built the first summer home, and early Karuizawa filled up with foreign missionary families long before it became a Japanese vacation brand. That foreign missionary origin left a permanent mark on the town, churches, chapels, and a genuinely international social scene that predates almost every other resort area in Japan by decades. Karuizawa didn't become international recently. It was never anything else. That history matters for one practical reason. Karuizawa has had over a century to develop zoning, culture, and market norms around foreign residence and vacation property. It isn't improvising the way a newer boom town has to. The systems here were built gradually, generation by generation, rather than assembled in a hurry to keep up with sudden demand. On to the current numbers. Karuizawa's town-wide average land price now runs 81,675 yen per square meter, up 10.7% in the latest official assessment, a real, broad-based increase across the whole town. But the old Karuizawa district specifically is in a different league, 183,000 yen per square meter, the highest land price anywhere in Nagano prefecture for 3 years running. Some specific points inside Old Karuizawa have gained 47.8% over just 5 years, running at nearly 4 times the national average pace. So how does that premium core compare to an actual, typical transaction elsewhere in the same town? We're not relying on a real estate agency's marketing numbers for this. It's the same government transaction dataset we've used for every other city in this series, pulled directly from Japan's Land Ministry. We pulled real 2024 land sale records from Japan's Land Ministry, 170 transactions across the town. The median sale price came out to roughly 31,476 yen per square meter. That puts Old Karuizawa's assessed land value at roughly 5.8 times the price of a typical parcel elsewhere in town, the same concentration story we've now seen in every city in the set, just with a century-old head start. Karuizawa real estate, as a phrase, covers a huge range of actual outcomes. Confirming which district, and how close to Old Karuizawa specifically, matters more than the town's name on the listing. The population picture here is genuinely unusual, too. It pulls in 2 different directions at once. Most of Japan's regional towns are dealing with straightforward decline. Fewer births, more deaths, younger residents moving to Tokyo or Osaka. Karuizawa's numbers don't fit that pattern cleanly, and that mismatch is worth understanding before you read too much into either figure on its own. Karuizawa's 2020 census population was 19,182. Right now, the town is gaining roughly 101 net new residents a year, genuinely popular, in-demand territory. And yet the long-range official projections still show 17,954 residents by 2050, a minus 6.4% decline from today. Current in-migration and Japan's underlying demographics are pulling in opposite directions, and the long-term forecast currently expects demographics to win. Financing follows the same pattern as the rest of this series. Residents with steady Japanese income can often reach loan-to-value ratios of 70 to 90%, while non-residents typically need far more cash up front, at rates closer to 1.0 to 2.5%. Now, the regulatory side, and this is where Karuizawa genuinely diverges from the rest of this series. Nearly the entire town falls under a decades-old landscape ordinance, building height capped at 10 meters in residential zones, villas limited to 10 meters and 2 stories, exterior colors restricted to low saturation, natural tones, and building coverage plus floor area ratio both capped at just 20%. That's dramatically stricter than typical residential zoning almost anywhere else in Japan. This isn't a market where you can assume you'll get standard issue construction approved. In practice, that means a renovation or new build here often needs a landscape review on top of the usual building permits, budget extra time in your timeline, and confirm with the seller's agent whether a specific parcel has already cleared that review or not. And the town isn't standing still on this. It just tightened the rules further. In March 2025, Karuizawa announced plans to formally separate villa zones from hotel and condo development zones under city planning law, starting with Old Karuizawa and Oiwake, with fines added for violations, rolling out over roughly 3 years. That's a real contrast with Niseko's story in this series. Niseko's problem was enforcement lagging behind a fast-moving boom. Karuizawa's town government is moving preemptively, trying to head off exactly that kind of mismatch before it happens. 2 boom towns, 2 different postures, one reacting to violations after the fact, one rewriting its own rulebook before violations pile up. Neither approach makes a purchase risk-free, but they create very different kinds of risk to check for. The risk here isn't lawlessness, it's regulatory friction. A purchase plan built around converting a villa lot into short-term rental income, for instance, could run straight into zoning that was never designed for that use, and the coming special use districts will only sharpen that line between what's allowed and what isn't. The most common mistake is treating Karuizawa's long history as a guarantee that anything goes here. If anything, that history is exactly why the rules are this specific and this well enforced. A century of managing foreign residents and vacation property has produced a town that knows precisely what it wants to allow and what it doesn't. Put it together and Karuizawa rewards buyers who check the specific district, the actual zoning category, and the current state of the town's development rules, not buyers who assume a 140-year-old brand name means uniform, unrestricted opportunity, and not buyers who assume the coming special use districts have already been finalized when the rollout is still years from complete. That closes out this 4-city set: Hiroshima's concentrated pocket inside a shrinking city, Sendai's ward-level paradox, Niseko's 2-decade foreign boom, and Karuizawa's century-old version of the same story. For cities, one repeated lesson: check the specific block, not the city's reputation, whether that reputation is 20 years old or 140. Subscribe for more data-driven breakdowns of living and investing in Japan, and let us know which city or topic you want covered next.
And that's today's breakdown. If you're serious about real estate or moving to Japan, research like this is exactly what separates a smart decision from an expensive mistake. Subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive, and drop a comment if there's a city or word you want us to cover next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.